Be me mid-30s now. Looking back thinking, I had the doing good life all figured out. Married a steady, predictable guy for like 11 years. Built a whole career around helping women. Kept telling myself. That made me the responsible. One, turns out I was just really skilled at not looking too closely at my own flaws. Met my husband at one of those community volunteer nights, you know the type, folding plastic tables, stacking metal chairs, everyone acting like it's about the cause but also kinda about being noticed. He was already there, early sleeves pushed up, quietly fixing a shaky podium. No one else cared about, wasn't charismatic, wasn't loud, just useful in a way that makes you feel weirdly safe. Introduced himself as Caleb Mechanical Engineer, good salary, solid benefits, soft-spoken, kept eye contact. Like, he actually listened instead of waiting his turn. I worked as a program coordinator at a nonprofit, the kind of job where you handle everything, but someone else gets photographed, wrote grant proposals lined up, speakers smiled at donors. I secretly couldn't stand. Went home and told myself it all counted as impact. Focused on women's workforce programs, job placement, harassment, policy stuff, things you can track with numbers. I liked that part. Numbers feel clean and clean. Numbers make you feel like you're clean too. Caleb asked me out after that event. No games, no weird performance, just asked if I wanted coffee and maybe a walk. After I remember thinking he was kinda dull, and then immediately thinking, maybe dull is exactly what I need. Smart women pick stable guys. That's what I told myself. That's what I told everyone else too. Dated for a couple years, he proposed in the most straightforward way possible. No flash, no speech about fate. Just a ring, a question, and steady hands. Marriage started off quiet, quiet. Slowly turned into comfortable, eventually turned into background noise. He worked long hours, not because he loved the office, but because he liked fixing things and being needed. He'd come home exhausted and still ask how my day went. And actually listen, like it mattered. I treated that. Like it was just always going to be there, like running water. You don't think about it until it shuts off. I started going to more advocacy meetings at first, because it was part of the job. Then because I liked the atmosphere rooms full of people clapping. When you say the right things, places where you can turn personal insecurity into public virtue, panels, workshops, committees with mission statements long enough to hide behind. I learned how to speak in that calm, measured tone, the I'm not emotional, I'm informed voice, got really good at it. Good enough that people started introducing me like I mattered. Caleb never pushed back on any of it, never complained about missed dinners, never guilt-tripped me for late nights. If I had something on a Saturday, he'd pack snacks for me, like I was heading out on a hike. If I came home stressed, he'd just let me vent and nod along, say stuff like, "That sounds draining, I'm proud of you." And, yeah, it felt good, but it also felt like he wasn't really part of that world. Like he existed in the home lane, and I existed in the public one, and I started calling that healthy boundaries because if you label something nicely, it feels like you chose it. First kid came when I was about 29, a girl called her Lily. Caleb cried when he held her actual tears, the kind that make you feel like you're seeing someone be real. He learned every feeding schedule, every bedtime routine, every tiny noise that meant something, full-on, devoted dad mode. He was so good at it, it actually annoyed me sometimes. Like, he was taking over what was supposed to be my role. I loved my daughter, but I also loved knowing I could step away, and someone had it handled. Never said that part, out loud. Money got tighter. After Lily, Caleb picked up extra freelance work, late nights on his laptop at the kitchen table. Said it was temporary. Said he wanted a safety net. Said he wanted options for our kid. I heard all that and just thought provider made me feel like everything I was doing rested on something solid. My work started growing too. I became more recognizable in those circles, people tagging me online, getting invited to things. I used to look up from my couch. Second kid came a few years later, another girl called her Ava. Caleb had that same quiet, overwhelmed happiness again. Like, he couldn't believe he got lucky twice. He started this routine one-on-one time with each kid, park mornings, with Lily, story, time nights, with Ava. Little rituals that made the house feel steady. Meanwhile, I was building my name, writing opinion pieces, speaking at events for free, so eventually I could get paid to do it, telling women they deserve better, while my own house turned into a place I just passed through, kept repeating to myself that my work mattered more than me being around. because the other moms noticed they never said it outright, but you could hear it in their voices. Tight smiles. That must be nice tone. I hated that tone more than anything. So I armored up with ideology, decided their judgment was just outdated expectations, told myself I wasn't going to be boxed in by that. Caleb handled everything anyway. Packed lunches, did school pickups, took the calls. When one of the kids got sick, he'd text me updates so I wouldn't feel disconnected. I read them like work emails, useful info, not something I was actually part of. Around then I started getting invited into more serious circles, board positions, strategy meetings, policy groups, rooms where people say systems. Every other sentence I liked, feeling like I could move things, like my words actually carried weight. Caleb just kept being Caleb, steady, quiet. Reliable. I got so used to it that it basically disappeared. To me, our sex life didn't crash or anything dramatic. It just slowly faded week by week, like a river drying up. When it did happen, it was usually because I initiated out of obligation, not because I actually wanted to, and he never pushed, never complained, never acted resentful, which should have made me appreciate him more. Instead, it made me feel unchallenged, like he didn't have needs, like he was fine, living in my shadow and calling it love. I told myself that meant our marriage was mature partnership over passion, and I got kinda smug about it, like we were above other couples. Then I met Marcus, not his real name, didn't know that at the time, met him at a city meeting about expanding health programs. He was introduced as a lawyer, doing pro bono work, sharp dresser, easy laugh, spoke in a way that made your brain wake up, dropped references without sounding rehearsed after the meeting. He asked what I thought about the opposition's arguments. Not small talk, actual strategy felt like oxygen. We grabbed coffee after a couple meetings. Then it turned into long walks, the kind where the whole city feels like background noise. He asked questions that made me feel interesting, listened, like I was something worth studying. Caleb listened too. But Caleb listened like someone who loved me. Marcus listened like someone who wanted me. And that difference hit hard. I didn't decide to have an affair in some big moment. It just slid into place, texts that got a little more flirty, late meetings that turned into one more drink a hand on my back as we left. Then suddenly a hotel room, and I told myself it was just a temporary space outside, real life. I justified it. Fast told myself Caleb didn't stimulate me. Told myself I needed intellectual connection. Told myself women are allowed to want things. Told myself I was still a good mom. Kept stacking clean-sounding reasons over something messy. It went on for a few months, intense but controlled. Marcus was always busy traveling, in court, in meetings, never online, no photos never seen together during the day. Back then it felt exciting. Now I see it for what it was. A giant red flag. Then I got pregnant again, third time, and honestly I felt more irritated than happy. Like my body was getting in the way of my momentum. Told Caleb, he reacted like I handed him the best news in the world. Immediately started planning budgets, nursery changes, researching car seats like it was a science project. I felt a quick stab of guilt. Then pushed it down, because guilt is inconvenient and I had things to do. I ended it with Marcus before I started showing no emotional goodbye, more like cutting off a loose thread before it catches. He didn't argue, didn't try to stop me, just said he respected my decision, then disappeared, which should have worried me. Instead, it made me feel like I was in control. Third kid was a boy, call him Ethan. Caleb cried again, holding him, different kind of tears this time. Like relief, like he'd been holding something in for years. He took time off work, handled diapers, nights, meals, everything. My recovery was easy because he made it easy. I went back to work fast because I didn't know how to just sit still anymore. My identity had shifted. It was all public. Now home felt like the one place where nobody clapped. I kept climbing committee roles, speaking gigs, small local interviews, not famous, but enough that people started recognizing me, and recognition brings its own kind of pull. People looking at you like you matter, people wanting to be close to you. I told myself I was above that ego boost. I wasn't met Ryan at a commission meeting introduced as an admin. Recently separated, had that worn-in confidence of someone who understands how systems actually run. We started texting about agenda items, then politics. Then it got more personal. He had this way of pushing back on my opinions. With a half smile made me lean in, made me want to convince him winning a guy over is still validation. Even when you tell yourself you've moved past needing it, Funny how that works. That one lasted longer. Months and months, less excitement, more routine, less thrill, more entitlement. I started thinking I deserved it. Like attention was payment for everything I was doing in the world. I wasn't sneaking around anymore. I was managing things. At least that's how I framed it in my head. Then Jake showed up. Met him at a fundraiser introduced as some consultant good smile. Confident energy not as sharp mentally, but more physical. The kind of attention that's simple and direct after years of defining myself by my brain. That simplicity felt easy. I kept both going for a while, not because I thought I was some villain, but because I felt untouchable, because Caleb trusted me completely, because my whole life was set up, so consequences didn't land on me, or at least that's what I believed. Caleb didn't notice anything, or I thought he didn't. He was too busy being an incredible dad, school projects, doctor visits, packing lunches with little notes inside. He'd tell people how lucky he was, how proud he was of me. And it always sounded genuine, which weirdly made me irritated, because real love can feel like a mirror you don't want to look into. Eventually, I cut things off. Not because I felt bad, because it got complicated. Too many messages, too many lies to track, too much risk stacking up. I shifted focus back to the marriage as a system. Home life was stable, kids were doing well. Career was still growing, so I told myself it was over. Told myself I'd learned something, told myself I got away clean. Then one random night happened, nothing dramatic, just a normal Tuesday. I was in my home office, slides open, working on a presentation about pay equity, trying to find a quote that sounded strong but not aggressive. Caleb came home early. I heard the door. His footsteps sounded off. He knocked before, coming into the office. He never knocks that alone, made my stomach drop a little. He walked in, sat down without saying anything. Looked pale in a way I'd never seen. Not angry, not yelling, just empty but tense at the same time. Said, "We needed to talk," and my brain immediately started racing. What did I forget to delete? What did I leave open? Who said something? He didn't accuse me. Right away, he pulled out an object, an old phone one. I completely forgot about the one I wiped before trading in. Apparently, he took it to get cleaned up for Lily. She was getting old enough for a basic phone. The shop recovered data messages, threads, dates, names, clear enough that there was no way to explain it away. Hotel addresses, calendar entries, lines that felt different seeing them through someone else's eyes. My chest didn't just drop. It felt like it disappeared. And instead of apologizing, I did what I always did. In public settings, I pivoted, I grabbed control of the moment, pointed at the phone like it was the issue, asked why he went through my private data, said it was unethical, said it was controlling, said he crossed boundaries. My voice slipped into that calm, professional tone. Automatically, even while I was cornered, Caleb just stared at me, like he didn't recognize who I was. He didn't argue about the privacy part. He just said my name quietly, then said, "You cheated on me," not asking, stating it. Then said, "It wasn't just once," then said, "It went on for years," like he was reading something he didn't want to believe. And I went straight into lecture mode because I trained myself to believe if you can explain something, you can survive it. So I started explaining, talked about marriage like it was just a structure. Said monogamy is basically a script people follow. Said women's desire gets controlled and boxed in. Talked about autonomy. Said I had a right to explore. Said his reaction was rooted in entitlement. Used the same language I used on panels, the same phrases people used to clap for and watch them hit my husband's face like spit. Caleb's expression shifted while I was talking. Hurt turned into disgust. Disgust turned into something colder. He asked if I was seriously doing theory right now. Asked if I was really trying to turn cheating into a lecture, and I doubled down, called him possessive. Said it was ownership behavior. Said he was trying to control my body. Said his reaction proved the exact problem I fought against. He stood up, hands steady, voice quiet, said he wanted a divorce. I laughed, not because it was funny, because it was the only thing keeping me from breaking. I said fine, told him courts usually side with mothers, said he'd be paying support for 3 kids, said I'd keep the house, said his predictable engineer paycheck would look great on paper. I said all of it with this smug tone that makes me sick. Now Caleb didn't yell, didn't argue, just looked at me with this expression I didn't understand yet, then said, "We'll see," and walked out like he'd already accepted losing me. He moved into the guest room, that same night filed within a week. I hired a lawyer through my network. Someone I'd met at events, she sounded confident, used all the right, reassuring language. Said, "We'd be fine." Said, "Courts value stability." Said, "Being a mother matters." I held on to that, like it was guaranteed. Then Caleb's lawyer requested paternity tests. Court ordered all 3 kids. And that's when real fear hit. Not reputation, fear, not public embarrassment. Something deeper, something physical. Because my mind went straight to timelines, went straight to Ethan's conception, went straight to Marcus, and the fact that probably isn't the same as certain, I told myself. The girls had to be, Caleb's told myself. Worst case, it was just one, told myself. I could spin that make him look cruel for even questioning. Make myself look like the hurt mother the order went through. We did the tests, sterile office kids, bored and confused, nurse acting like it was just another routine thing. I signed papers with shaking hands, then spent the next 2 weeks in this quiet fog, couldn't even admit it out loud. During that time, Caleb moved into a small apartment, temporary custody split, 50-50, and watching him parent without me felt like watching a demonstration. The kids came back, calm, fed, homework, done, hair brushed. He recreated routines anywhere, like stability was something he could carry with him. Meanwhile, my time with them felt fragile. I was distracted, snapped too quickly, kept catching myself staring at them, trying to calculate something impossible, like if I looked hard enough, their faces would give me answers. Results came on a Thursday. My lawyer told me to come in. Her voice sounded different, still professional, but tight, like she didn't want to say what she had to say. Papers were already waiting. When I got there, she slid them over without really looking at me. Child 1, Lily paternity excluded. The word excluded didn't feel real, like it didn't belong to me. Child 2, Ava excluded. Child 3, Ethan excluded. All 3. 0. Not unlikely, not low probability. Excluded. My brain just stalled. My mouth opened, but nothing came out. I stared at the page until the letters blurred together, because that kind of result doesn't just accuse you. It rewrites everything. My lawyer started explaining legal consequences, fraud issues, custody, getting complicated support, potentially flipping assets depending on credibility. She mentioned civil claims, talked about how judges react when they feel lied to. And all I could think was, this doesn't make sense. I was sure, so sure. Everyone said Lily looked like his mom. Ava had his little gestures. Ethan had his smile. But biology doesn't care about that. I asked if labs mess up. She said rarely said. The court uses reputable labs, said we could retest. But even asking would look desperate. And desperation looks like guilt to a judge. I left her office and drove home without really thinking. My phone started blowing up. Family, friends, people from boards. I sat on messages that opened soft and turned sharp. Real quick, news spreads fast in communities that pretend they're all about ethics, and scandal is basically their version of entertainment. Caleb's family found out and they didn't stay quiet about it, older relatives especially. No subtlety at all, they called it exactly what they thought it was, and told anyone willing to listen. Within a day, my professional circles knew too. I tried to control the narrative, posted about how DNA doesn't define parenthood, posted about love, being what matters, posted about how obsession with bloodlines is harmful, posted about privacy, posted about patriarchy. And the response was worse than silence, because people actually responded. Women who used to agree with me, comments like, "But you lied," comments like, "You built your platform on honesty and consent," comments like, "This isn't empowerment, this is deception," someone said. I used language as a shield to justify harm, and I hated how accurate that felt. My board asked me to step down for the mission. My employer put me on leave. Pending review, speaking gigs, disappeared panels, quietly stopped inviting me. Texts got colder. Invitations just stopped coming. My calendar emptied out like a building. After an alarm, custody hearing felt like being dissected in public. Caleb's lawyer didn't need theatrics. He just laid out facts. Caleb did. School pickups. Caleb packed lunches. Teachers knew his name. I missed events. My travel meant he handled nights alone. He had years of emails with teachers and doctors. My lawyer tried to argue I was still a loving mom, but love doesn't hit hard when your schedule looks like absence. Then the affairs came up, not rumors, evidence. The men I treated like background characters showed up as witnesses. One appeared on video, another submitted a statement. Their versions of me didn't match who I thought I was. They described me as manipulative, said, I lied about being separated, said I used sympathy and status to get what I wanted. Every sentence felt like being forced to look at myself. The judge was a woman. I thought that might help me. Thought she'd understand context. She didn't care about context, she cared about credibility. And I had none. Primary custody went to Caleb, not because of biology, but because he was the one who actually parented Court. Treated him as the legal father, stability mattered, and my life looked like chaos. Dressed up in nice language, I got alternating weekends. One weekday evening, child support based on my income, the amount hurt to even think about. I lost the house in the settlement, lost most of the shared savings, kept my personal stuff, and an older car left, with a box of documents and a life with no audience. My job ended a week later. Nonprofit said integrity was part of the mission, said I no longer fit. They didn't say the worst part out loud. The worst part was I became something they needed to distance from. Family reaction was simple and brutal. My mom said she was ashamed. My sister sent a long message about betrayal. My dad just went quiet. Friends stopped replying. People who used to hug me suddenly couldn't talk. Turns out community is just a room. You're allowed in until you mess it up. The worst part wasn't losing status, wasn't the money, wasn't the empty schedule. It was the kids' weekend visits felt stiff. Lily was old enough to understand lying. She asked me one night if I lied to Caleb. I tried to answer carefully. She just looked at me and said, "That sounds like yes." Ava kept asking. When we were going back home, Ethan didn't have words for any of it, just held on to routines, and Caleb's place had routines. Caleb never spoke badly about me to them. At least, not where I could hear, kept everything polite, neutral tone, short conversations. And in his eyes there was something worse than anger. There was no belief left at all. Like he used to believe I was a good person, and now he couldn't even remember why. Months passed, I moved into a small apartment, took a lower-paying admin job, somewhere nobody cared about my old reputation. My name still followed me. Though just quieter, people would recognize it. Sometimes their eyes would flicker. Then they'd pretend they didn't know me, like acknowledging it would stain them too. Dating was a mess. Every conversation eventually got there. Kids' divorce, what actually happened. Then that quiet oh and distance right after one guy actually laughed when I tried to explain, said I sounded like a politician spinning a scandal. I hated him for saying it because it fit too well. I tried therapist, kept pushing accountability. I kept pushing back with frameworks. She finally said something that stuck. You can explain it however you want, but you still chose to lie to someone who trusted you. I didn't go back, not because she was wrong, because she was right. In a way I couldn't repackage. Time moved on. Like it does, Caleb rebuilt his life, started seeing someone, nothing flashy. Woman who worked with kids, calm energy, patient eyes. The kids liked her, and that made me angry in a way I couldn't admit, because it proved they didn't need me to be okay. I made one bitter post online, once deleted it fast. Didn't matter. Screenshots spread. Got a warning through legal channels, stay quiet or it gets worse. So I learned to swallow anger instead of posting it. 2 years after the divorce, my life got small. Work, bills, laundry, awkward visits, quiet nights, watching causes. I used to lead, keep going without me. Sometimes I'd scroll old photos, babies. Caleb smiling with this softness I didn't earn. And it hit like grief, not just for what I lost, but for who I could have been. If I valued what I had, people asked if I regretted it. I used to give clever answers, talk about agency, talk about choice, talk about systems. Now I just don't answer, because regret isn't something you explain. It's waking up in a quiet apartment. You built yourself for a long time. The paternity results just sat there like a wound that never healed. But one question kept looping. If Caleb isn't the father, then who has I been with multiple men? So logically it should have been mixed. Different fathers, different outcomes, but all three results were the same. All excluded Caleb, not some all. And that didn't match the random story. I told myself it pointed to a pattern. One night I ordered DNA kits online, not through court, not through lawyers. Just privately told myself it was for the kids someday, but really, I just needed to know. I tested Lily, then Ava, then Ethan, and while waiting, I did something I didn't expect. I tested myself too, just to confirm I was actually their mother. Because paranoia is what shame turns into. If you let it sit, results came in one by one, And the first shock wasn't about fathers, it was about the kids. They were full siblings, all three same father, same mother, clean match. Like there had only ever been one man. That made no sense. I knew there hadn't been just one. There couldn't have been. Unless I'd been lying to myself in a way that didn't even feel possible. I pulled up old messages, screenshots Caleb had shown me, texts I used to treat like proof of something, and I started noticing things I ignored before. Same phrasing across different men. Same little quirks, same rare emoji. Used the exact same way, same excuses about travel, lining up same insistence on meeting in places without cameras. Same refusal to take pictures. Same. My phone is acting weird, getting a new number. Story again, and again, I sat there in my tiny apartment. Felt this cold realization creeping in because one thought finally clicked into place. What if they weren't different people? What if it was just one person wearing different masks? I replayed everything in my head. Marcus, the lawyer, Ryan, the admin, Jake, the consultant. And I realized something I never wanted to admit. I wasn't that observant. I wasn't that careful. I liked the fantasy more than reality, and men playing roles had always been my blind spot. I found an old voicemail I'd kept, just to boost my ego. Listened to it again, with different ears, then found another one, then another, same voice every time. Slightly adjusted, sure, but the same rhythm underneath, same inhale before he laughed, same pause before saying my name. My stomach dropped in a completely new way. Not the I got caught feeling, the I got played feeling, the kind of humiliation that strips away any illusion of control, because it proves you never had any. I spent weeks trying to track him down. Emails bounced back, phone numbers disconnected, the law firm, website gone, office address turned out to be a rented mailbox. The consulting company didn't exist anymore. Every version of him disappeared. The second I tried to reach it, then one afternoon I saw a news clip, not even local, just something shared online headline about a serial fraud case guy accused of impersonating professionals, fake credentials, targeting nonprofits and organizers, dating multiple women under different identities, taking money, access, time. They showed a blurred image first, then a clearer one, and my whole body went cold, because I knew that face immediately, the shape of his smile, the eyes I thought meant something, the face I split into 3 different men to protect my own story. Comments under the video were brutal. Women sharing their stories, boards talking about lost funds, organizers saying he slipped into private meetings. And there it was, the truth I couldn't twist. I wasn't some empowered woman rewriting rules. I was just another target. I sat on my couch and felt the weight of it, the part I couldn't spin. The 3 kids Caleb raised, the kids I lost, the kids I still loved, all had the same biological father, not multiple men. Not chaos, just one guy playing different roles. And I never noticed, because I wanted the fantasy, wanted to feel chosen by different kinds of men, wanted to believe I had options, wanted to feel in control. But I was just another easy pick in a crowd. I thought about telling Caleb for the kids, for medical reasons someday, for closure. Then I pictured him, tired eyes, steady hands, years of showing up. And that moment when he said, "We'll see." And I realized he already understood something about me. Not about the fraud, about how easily I lie to myself. So I did the only thing left that wouldn't make it worse, put the DNA report in an envelope, no return address, no explanation, no speeches, just facts, and mailed it to him. A few weeks later, I got something back, 1 line, no greeting, no anger, just a sentence on plain paper. "Thank you for finally telling the truth without turning it into a lesson." I stared at that for a long time, because it didn't forgive me, but it didn't attack me either. It just named the thing I avoided for years, truth simple. Direct, the thing I talked about in public while dodging it in private. My life is still small. Now visits still awkward, kids are older. They love Caleb, they love me too. But carefully, like someone touching something that hurt them, before I don't blame them. Sometimes I feel the urge to explain again, to frame it, to build a defense out of words. Then I remember that guy's face on the news. Remember Caleb saying, "We'll see." Remember how fast everything collapsed once truth showed up. I used to think consequences were tools used to control people like me. Now I see something simpler. They don't care about your beliefs. They don't care about your mission. They don't care how well you can talk. They just arrive quiet, final, and the strangest part, the part that keeps me up sometimes, isn't that Caleb raised kids that weren't his. It's that he was still the best father they had, while the man they share blood with is just a face in a news clip. Another story, people scroll past. Another warning, nobody thinks applies to them. I wanted my life to matter, wanted to be seen as someone doing good. And instead, I became a cautionary story. People whisper about, not because of what I believed, not because of the work I did, but because I treated truth like something optional, late at night when everything is quiet. I hear my old voice in my head, the confident one that could justify anything. And now, it doesn't sound strong. It sounds like someone trying to talk over an alarm that's already going off.